Welcome back to another episode of Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services, Cottonwood Parks and Recreation, and Gettles High Desert Mechanical. I'm your host, Philip Catafamo. We have got a great show in store for you this week. Later in the program, we'll be joined by Flagstaff girls basketball coach Tyrone Johnson to break down the program's strong group of returners, his involvement in putting together their early season tournament, and speak about what areas he would like to see this team improve in. We'll then be joined by Flagstaff boys basketball coach Nick Walton. He'll speak about how he decides which tournaments to participate in, discuss the lower level success this season, and what the program can expect against Deer Valley. And when we return from break, we'll be joined by Payson boys basketball coach Robert Mavis to talk about the start of the season, the benefit of the team's early season retreat, and preview the game against Fountain Hills. All of that and a whole lot more coming up right here on Off the Bench. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Two things we can count on every year.
A new set of tax rules and great weather here in Northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Gettles High Desert Mechanical. I'm joined now by Payson High School boys basketball coach Robert Mavis. Coach Mavis, welcome onto the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate the time and opportunity to, share the love here.
Yeah, of course. So we appreciate you taking the time, Coach. Obviously, the Longhorns are in the midst of their 2021 season, as is everybody here in Northern Arizona and actually across the entire world if they're playing basketball in the winter. But Coach, the program started off with losses against Fountain Hills and AZ College Prep, but since then you guys have really been rolling. Can you take me through those first two games and what adjustments did you guys make going into that game against Chino Valley on December 7th earlier this season?
Well, basically what happened was we opened up against Fountain Hills, and Fountain Hills is a solid program, as is Arizona College Prep, ACP. And that coming out of the board, into the season with those two, it was a really tough schedule. Only reason, to be honest with you, I have a funny feeling it was the early jitters, new coach, new system. And now that we got a feel of each other, I think we're on the right page, right progress of moving up.
Okay.
The only difference we made between Fountain Hills, AC Prep, going into Chino Valley was just a little trust within each other.
Okay. It's interesting you talk about that. I mean, you guys obviously, I do want to ask Coach. I was going to say this question for a little later in the show, but I feel like it could be applicable now because you talk about some of those early season struggles, these guys trying to break off that rust, but I just want to diverge quickly. If you take a look at Coach Mavis's Twitter account, he's got a great photo of sort of like a retreat the guys did at Antelope Canyon. So, Coach, I want to ask, did that trip help you guys in any way with sort of team bonding? Like you said, you get a new coach. Did it help you guys sort of just take a second to kind of, walk outside and breathe in some nature? I mean, did you feel that it helped you guys gel more as a team? It was around that time, around the Chino Valley game, that you guys took that trip, correct?
That is correct. After we got done with Chino, we had an invitation to go up to Page, and we played in that tournament. We played Arbor View, Las Vegas. The first night we got there. The second day, that's when we went to the Antelope Canyon. And to be honest with you, I think with us doing activities like that, like you said, outside of the gym and us going, going one-on-one with each other as a group, as a brotherhood, I want to say they really realized that, hey, we trust each other, and we did bond. We came together, and what we're trying to do is build a solidation of a brotherhood, because, I mean, they're with each other every day for 3 to 4 hours, not even talking about school hours, and you got to learn to build that trust. But yeah, the Antelope Canyon really flipped the script for us.
Yeah, and like you said, you guys participated in the Holiday Classic tournament at Page High School. You mentioned you guys took on a team from Las Vegas, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. But Coach, let's break down that tournament. How'd you feel your team performed? Were you guys able to get right back on the right track after that tourney?
Yeah, I mean, going into it, we knew that Arborview was going to be one of them schools that we're either going to bring it or we're going to learn from it. And honestly, we really learned a lot from it. We really realized that, hey, we can play with anybody in the state. I mean, they built a little camaraderie. They built some confidence. I mean, even though we lost by like 40, but playing these guys that played above the rim, it was just a whole different style of basketball that I believe they have never seen before.
Okay.
And with that being said, we went on. I mean, after that, they just, elevated their game.
Well, I want to ask, Coach, obviously Las Vegas, the team from, Arborview High School is in Las Vegas, Nevada, for those of you who are not familiar. They, along with Payson, participated in the Page Holiday Classic, which we were talking about. So, Coach, I want to ask, you talk about the sort of getting the opportunity to play against that team, but I want to ask, how does this benefit the team going forward? Obviously they are never going to see Arborview in playoffs or in region, obviously, but I'm curious, how has that seeing a completely different style of basketball from a completely different state help these guys going forward?
Oh, it was just a confidence builder by far. 100% confidence builder, knowing that, we actually got an opportunity to play against an out-of-state school.
Yeah.
And for them to see it, it was really good for them.
Yeah, I bet. And what an interesting opportunity. I know that I'll get a chance to speak with Camp Verde boys basketball coach Dan Wall a little bit later this month. And his team took on my alma mater out of California. So it's interesting to see these teams come out of state to come participate in these tournaments, specifically Coach one in Page, which, you want to talk about the northern part of Arizona. That is the tippy top of Arizona. And in a lot of ways is a little bit of an interesting trek for a team from Nevada, but what a great opportunity for you guys to get a chance to play against a team out of state. An opportunity I'm sure doesn't come up much.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. We actually had a really good time, because then after that we played Red Mesa, a smaller school, and then that Saturday evening we got to play Hurricane Utah. That was a really solid, fundamentally sound team right there too. So just to see it all, it was great. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, really. Really to see it all, very much so. So, Coach, I want to ask, you returned 7 seniors on the roster this year, headlined by Jeremy Chavez. How much can you say? What can you say about this group of seniors, and how much have they been relied on this season?
Honestly, Jeremy Chavez is pretty much our backbone. We go to, when we need a point between him and Connor Hatch, Easton Redford. I can't say enough about my seniors, because they're all my leaders, and honestly, I'm looking for a good season out of these seniors.
Well, Coach, I know we're still in the middle of the 2021 season. Again, we're speaking with Payson High School boys basketball coach Robert Mavis. But, Coach, I want to talk a little bit about the guys you'll be getting back next season. You'll be graduating that group you just talked about. But you returned some really, really solid players along with Jack O'Grady. He's averaging about 8 points a game this season. Miguel Beltran, Dexter Waterman, Caleb Marinelli, just to name a few of the guys that you'll be getting back next season. So I want to ask, along with, of course, Anderson Hatch, the sophomore, how are you feeling about this group going into next year, Coach? And how are you feeling, I should just say, just going into the rest of the season as your lights come on?
My light turned off. Hold on.
All right, hang on one second. We got a light shut down here in the locker room. There we go. Someone's turning the lights on you, Coach. We still got a couple more minutes of this interview. You can't slip out just yet. But I do want to, just in general, Coach, how you feeling about that group of returners going into next year?
So, honestly,
extension 5743.
We're in the middle of finals too, so they're going in between classes too. So
I got you.
Honestly, the group returning next year, that's a good foundation. And with some of my sophomores that are, along with Andy Hatch, I have a few sophomores that will be filling the spots for the seniors. I'm very, very, very excited about that.
Yeah,
I really am. I have a Christian Harris. He's about a 6'3". We got a Dominic Streiser. He came in from Austria, Germany. Wow. We have a Sergio Madrid. A Mikey Shinstock. They've been together for a minute, and I'm excited about that group.
How about you getting a transfer in from Austria, coming all the way to Payson out of all places here?
I know, go figure. When they call me to the office, say, hey, this young man wants to play some basketball. So I said, what can you do? I took him to the gym, and European style big time, just a mid-range shooter that could just play.
Wow.
So getting them into the United States basketball system is going to be a challenge because it's a different style here from what he's seen.
Well, how have you guys, just real quick, Coach, before we go into the rest of the season, how have you guys been kind of easing that transition for him from European to American style basketball? I would assume he's on JV, right? You said he was a sophomore.
Yes, he's one of our starters on JV. Basically, the style of basketball is a lot of, let's get up and down the court. And for him being as big as he is, we're going to have to do a slow down game for him and have him on a trailing and let him, pop the shooters at. The Euro players, they can shoot the heck out of the ball. So
yeah, very much so. And we're seeing a lot of that sort of European style basketball make its way to, the high school levels and your college into your pros as well, where these guys, you're getting a lot of high powered offenses that are scoring about, well, for high school, maybe more about 60 to 70 points a night, more than that if you're really good. But it's been interesting. It's been a slow transition, but we're seeing a lot more of that European style basketball come over here to the States. But Coach, I want to ask before I miss the opportunity, where's an area you'd like to see this team improve in going forward on the season?
Honestly, moving forward, I want to say outside shooting, scoring, and defensively.
Put the European kid in, Coach.
Yeah, right? Pretty soon. Hopefully we'll get him a little varsity action towards the end of the season, let him really see the difference between JV and varsity. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I want to see a little bit of more defensive stops. So I'm really big on defense.
Yeah. One last question before we let you go, Coach. You guys got an opportunity to take on Fountain Hills on January 4th. You guys faced Fountain Hills to start off the season, took a loss to them like we talked about at the top of the interview. I want to ask, Coach, you get a chance to play them again. What are you expecting this time around from Fountain Hills, and how are you preparing the team for that game on January 4th?
Basically what I told the boys, I said, my fellas, I said, hey, guys, that was a game that we opened our season up with. I said, you guys got some games underneath your belt. You guys know what you guys are capable of doing. So, all we can really do, Fountain Hills, don't get me wrong, they're a solid squad. But I tell my boys, I said, I'll take them 5 anywheres. I'll take my team anywhere to play against anybody. So I have total confidence in these boys. And with the confidence that I'm trying to instill in them, I think we'll be able to, give Fountain Hills a little bit of a run, a little bit better of a game than we did day one.
Well, Coach, like I said, the Longhorns will be taking on Fountain Hills on January 4th. Best of luck, Coach Mavis, going forward on the season. I do want to thank you for coming and taking the time to talk about your program. We're excited to see where the Longhorns go. I'm sure we'll touch base again when we get closer to the end of the season. And best of luck. Happy holidays as well.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Phil. I really appreciate you guys.
Of course, Coach. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Flagstaff girls basketball coach Tyrone Johnson right here on Off the Bench. Stay with us.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verde Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical, heating, air conditioning, and plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle. Get Gettles.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Cottonwood Parks and Recreation and Gettles High Desert Mechanical. I am joined now by Flagstaff High School girls basketball coach Tyrone Johnson. Coach Johnson, welcome onto the show.
Appreciate you having me on the show, Philip.
Well, we're always happy to have you, Coach Johnson. You run a phenomenal program up there in Flagstaff High School. The Eagles season is officially kicked off. Started the season on a bit of a tough note, losing to Seton Catholic Prep. But since then, your team has been on an absolute roll, Coach. I'd love to talk a little bit about the hot start of that. About the hot start to your season, and also that loss against Seton Catholic. So, can we talk about that first game of the season?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Coming in with Seton, you test it right away. They're the defending state champions. Even though they lost a few pieces, they have girls on that team that have played in several state championship games and have also won, a couple state championships. And then, they're pretty much the pinnacle of 4A girls basketball. And so, anytime you play them, you want to be able to show well, you want to be able to compete. And then you want to use that as a base to kind of see where you are in comparison to where you need to be at the end of the season. And so, since that was our first game, only like their third game, I think at that point in time, hopefully by the end, both teams will be better, but we kind of got a gauge of what we need to do to be one of the top teams.
Gotcha. Coach, going in from that game, you guys roll right into the Pepsi Holiday Tournament, a tournament that you guys host. You were able to and not only host that tournament successfully, but win the entire tournament. You guys beat Pima in the championship during the Pepsi Holiday Tournament. So, Coach, can we talk a little bit about that game against Pima? And then I'll follow that up with some specific tournament questions. But first off, congratulations. And can we talk a little bit about that Pima game?
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate it. It was good to have Pima in the field this year. Last year when they won a 2A title, when you look at Max Preps and you look at the rankings, irregardless of class, they were ranked like number 2 overall, irregardless of class. And so we knew that they were a strong team, that they were a respected team. And, it was just a privilege to have them up in the tournament. And they played well throughout. And then even when they played against us, I think they competed hard and competed well. And that's all that you can really ask for. And so for our girls to go out and understand the magnitude of the team that we were playing, not just that, we're playing a 2A team. No, you're playing one of the best basketball teams in the state. And to come out and to be able to perform like we did was, again, a good sign and a good gauge of where we are and where we want to go.
Kind of taking a look at some of your standouts during that tournament, one of which was sophomore Alyssa Harris, which we will talk about a little bit later in the program. But, Coach, who else stood out for you during that tournament? How do you approach these early season tournaments? Do you kind of mess with your lineup a little bit? Do you let some JV players get some time? How do you approach the tournaments? And like I mentioned, who else really stood out during those games?
Yeah, so with the approach, we don't do anything as far as JV. We don't let JV come up. I mean, if you look at my bench and my roster, I got like 17. I got 18 roster, but 17 that, kind of dresses out. And so definitely don't have room to bring up JV. So, we look at it and we take it as a time to really get better and to work on a few things. And it depends on the game, as much as you want all your games to be competitive in a tournament, typically, even when we host or when we go to tournaments, there's a game or two where it's not as competitive as you like. And so during those games, we definitely try and get people some time and get them some minutes early on, as opposed to just at the end of the game, and really see how they're going to react and to see what they can do on the court in just not necessarily a crunch time, but in real moments to where the game can swing either way. And so you really try to reward them for their efforts in practice. And then I think someone who I thought played real well at the tournament, besides, Alyssa and Grace and Sage, was Morning. I think Morning Honani, she's another sophomore for us. And I think just the flow of her game, she's learning more and more. Her IQ is growing. And she's able to control the game with her pace of play. She defends well. She's not forcing now. She's pulling out if she don't have anything, get other people involved. And I just think the way that she played was huge for us, and we need a lot more of that going forward.
Yeah, of course, we will talk about Morning Rain Hunani, one of your fellow, one of a few sophomores and freshmen that make up the rest of your roster this season, along with the returning seniors and juniors. Coach, specifically about the tournament, obviously you guys host the Pepsi Holiday Tournament. I want to ask, what is your direct involvement with that when you're picking your opponents? I mean, do you kind of just post the tournament on the AIA website and go, whoever shows up, or are you specifically looking for certain teams to play against to give your team a good challenge in this early season tournament?
So we will post it on the AIA site, and then we'll field calls from teams that are interested. We'll also reach out to particular schools that we like to invite that, have typically been competitive in the past. And then we'll kind of choose from the field. So on the girls' side, I contact the teams and field the calls from the team. On the boys' side, Coach Walton does that. And so the coaches are directly involved with that. And so what we try to do is make sure that we're going to have a competitive field. And so not everybody that necessarily contacts us from the posting on the AIA website necessarily gets into the tournament. There are some years that it's been like, hey, we need all the teams that we can, and we let everybody. But typically we try and have a filter process to where, it doesn't look as if, hey, Flag High having their own tournament and they picking teams that won't compete with them. And it's just, so we try not to do that. We want teams to come up. We want it competitive, and we want people to feel that anybody has a shot to win it. And so those are the type of teams that we look for, teams that's going to compete.
You mentioned her name earlier. Senior Grace Lynez has been a staple of this basketball team since she first stepped on the floor 3 years ago. Coach, last season, she averaged 16.6 points per game for you. Her freshman year, I think it was 12, and she took a little bit of a step back in her sophomore year, but really picked it up her junior year. Here in her final year at Flagstaff High School, Coach, she's accomplished a lot, not only for your basketball team, but a lot on the volleyball floor as well. I just want to kind of get I know you got a few other seniors. We'll talk about the rest of your returners as well, but I know Graceland's been a standout. Coach, I just want to ask, how has it been watching her these past 4 years? How has it been watching her grow these past 4 years? And just what do you think she can accomplish here in her final year at Flagstaff?
Well, just seeing Graceland come in and knowing obviously that she was coming to Flag High, when you talk about sports realm, because we have a great volleyball program, and, we were just a benefactor that she also liked basketball, and she's the athlete that she is. And she's been able to step on the court and really do some amazing things for us and help us to be where we are today. And so, everything that Graceland has done for the program, we can't even thank her enough. And this year she'll hit a milestone that, Flag Coco Russell Woods, he's double checking on, but she's going to hit a milestone to where she's going to be the first person in Arizona State history with a confirmed 1,000 kills in a volleyball career and 1,000 points in a basketball career. So, just to be a part of that and just to see her grow, not only as an athlete, but also as a person, stepping up. Like the other night we were at Coronado, and the ball had a lot of air, and she come to me, she's like, Coach, you think they can take some air out of the ball? I'm like, if you go talk to them. She looks at me, and just seeing her, because her freshman, sophomore, junior year, she'd have been like, no, we'll just keep the air in there. Yeah. But taking on the responsibility, like, okay, I am the captain, I'm gonna go over there and I'm gonna talk to her. And so just seeing that growth and development, that's what you want to see, not just on the court, but off the court and as a person. And so Grace has been great for us. And I think ultimately this year she came to get a volleyball championship, but since that didn't happen, why not get a basketball?
That's right, Coach. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, very much, again, to the benefit of the girls basketball program, a chance for Grace Lynez and the rest of the Eagles staff, of course, to compete for a 4A state title. Again, we were speaking with Flagstaff High School girls basketball coach Tyrone Johnson. Coach, like I mentioned, you got a great group of returners coming back along with Grace Lynez, one of which, junior Sage Begay, I know has been huge for you guys going forward. Jasmine Redhouse, another one, Brianna Curtis, just to name a few of the returners you're getting. Coach, how are you feeling about this group of players this season going forward? And I mean, how optimistic are you about getting Sage Begay back next year and a few other key returners?
Well, very optimistic in terms of getting those players back. They're quality players, they're quality kids, great students. And so, I know I don't have a lot of issues to deal with those players. Also looking for them to lead right, because we do have a lot of young ones that you alluded to. We have, between freshman and sophomore, that's half our roster. We got, 5 sophomores rather than 2 freshmen. And then some of the sophomores are returners. But somebody like Sage, she's also a co-captain in her leadership and her effort. It has to be there every night. She has to work hard and, just really help us set a tone, and so that other people can just fall in line. And so then when she's talking to somebody or telling somebody something, she's not just telling them to do it and not doing it herself. She can practice what she preach and really work. And it's going to be big. We need Sage to be on all cylinders. We need Grace to be on all cylinders, along with Jasmine Redhouse. She's been hurt, but as she comes back from her injury, she's going to be key for us, especially down the stretch and guarding in the post, because we're not big at all. And then being able to score in the post, so we don't necessarily have to keep Graceland on the inside. We can let her be outside to where she can blossom and do what she do, being able to shoot the 3 like she does. And so those girls, Kaitlyn Davis is another senior that's been hurt, but she got some good minutes for us last year. And so as she gets back into shape and returns, again, her defense and ability to shoot the 3 should help us out a lot. And so when you look at our returning core, I think is solid. And if we can play together and play for one another, I think, not just good things, great things can happen for us, and it can be a memorable season.
Yeah, very much so, Coach. I mean, like you mentioned, you've got such a deep roster. We'll talk about the JV and freshman teams as well. They're both playing phenomenal this season to start off the year. But, Coach, you talk about that sophomore and freshman class. We kind of alluded to it a little bit. Alyssa Harris played fantastic during the Pepsi Holiday Tournament. She's going to be a key returner next season. You mentioned Morning Rain Honani. She's another one who's going to be great. Kenya Bly, she'll be in. Freshman Tegan Martin, Kristen Harris. I mean, you've got a great core of freshmen and sophomores, Coach, that could really accomplish something going forward. I want to ask, what do you think they could accomplish here in the next 2 to 3 years?
Well, it's really going to depend on them and how hard they work. And, if they stay together and they choose to work for one another and just really buy into what we're trying to teach and build. And I think it'll be good. The fact that Alyssa and Chrissy are, sisters, that could be something special for them throughout these next couple of years. We also got another sister set in Jasmine and Jadine Dugai. And, they're giving us great minutes right now. Both of them can play solid defense. They're shooting the 3 real well when they get into the game. They're getting good minutes. Jasmine has been like one of the first ones off the bench, and she comes in and impacts the game right away. Jadine gets into the game, and she's definitely an impact. And so, that can be special. Tegan has the ability to be a real special player herself, the way that she can shoot the 3, how she can defend, how fast she is, she can handle it. And so as she gets more and more confident and puts it all together, I think she can definitely be a key player for us over the next 3 years after this and just really grow. I think her ceiling is real high. And so, those girls are going to be tremendous for us. Kenya, she's a sophomore. She's learning right now what this speed and what this pace is all about. And so as she continues to learn that, I think she's going to be able to step in the future and help us out as well.
As I mentioned, Coach, you've got a deep JV and freshman team, both programs performing well this season. I want to ask, obviously, you've got some sophomore and freshmen on the varsity roster. So with the fact that you guys are pretty deep just in general, I mean, how do you kind of decide when it's time to bring up a sophomore or a freshman to start the season at the varsity level?
So for us, really, what I really try and do is when we have open gyms and stuff like that, I try to see who's competing and how they're looking with each other in their same class. And then when I pull them out that class and put them with the upperclassmen, can they compete? Do they compete consistently? Do they bring that energy and that fire that they need to be at that level to be successful? And so we look at all that. And then the ones that do, they say, okay, now you're going to play this open gym season with the varsity. And if they can continue to show that, hey, I belong up here, then when it comes tryouts, all our juniors, all our seniors, they have to try out for varsity. That's the way we do it. And then select sophomores and select freshmen also get to try out. No select ones typically come from us seeing them in open gym and stuff like that and say, okay, now it's time for you to come try out. And when they try out, if they make it, they understand that if you're a freshman or a sophomore, my philosophy, I don't want you on varsity just to say you're on varsity.
Right.
If you're on varsity at that age, it's typically because you're going to play and because you're going to be able to help us. And I see that, you're ahead of some of the juniors and seniors on the depth chart. And so, but there's some occasions like this year, we got a couple that we told, hey, it may be better for you to be JV. Mm-hmm. But for instance, Kenya was MVP on JV last year.
Okay.
And she was kind of borderline for us this year as far as a varsity player. But she was like, Coach, I'd rather be up here. I want to practice. I want to get ready for next year. Say, okay, you understand that your time is going to be limited unless you prove something different. And she's taking a challenge and she's working. And, hopefully by the end, she'll prove me wrong and get good minutes as a sophomore. If not, she's definitely going to be ready for her junior year.
No, that's great, Coach. I mean, like you said, you don't want to rush anybody up to put them on varsity just to put them up there. You guys aren't stressing for numbers right now. But, man, what an honor it might be to kind of get singled out and go, hey, why don't you come practice with the varsity team? You're a freshman here at Flagstaff. Why don't you come down and try it on the varsity? So
we kind of do that when the open gym set, when the freshmen and stuff are going and the sophomores, and that's when we'll do it. It's like you and you.
Oh, man.
Let's go to the gym. And, they get their moment then.
Oh, man, to be a bride and not a bridesmaid, I'll tell you that. But,
yes,
Coach,
indeed.
next game you guys got on the schedule is January 5th against Deer Valley. This is not the first time you guys have taken on Deer Valley. You played the Skyhawks last season, lost 52-48 in overtime. Very, very close game. What are you expecting from them this season? Are you excited for this game? I know they just got done with a game against Mingus, so they're already kind of got an opportunity to take on some 4A Grand Canyon teams. But like I said, what are you expecting this time around against Deer Valley, Coach? And what can you say to the talent of that program?
Well, I'm expecting them to be even better than what they were last year. Everybody's a year older. They had a young roster, so now they're seasoned a little bit more. Year older, I know they probably played a lot of summer ball together. I think that's one thing that they do. They keep their nucleus together, and they all go play together throughout the summer, so that's going to help them. As to where ours, two people may play here, two people may play there. And so then bringing them back together, we got to work to get them all on the same page again. But so I'm expecting them to be better. That's the thing. So when we play them, we have to be better. They got some great athletes. I know the big girl on the inside is phenomenal in terms of rebounding and just, locking that middle up when they play their zones and all that. Their guards are quick and feisty and they try to trap everything. So, we're just going to have to play our game and we're going to have to play hard, and we can't take anything for granted when we face a team such as Deer Valley.
The winter basketball season is underway here in the 4A Grand Canyon region, and one of these coaches for these fantastic programs up here is this gentleman right here, Flagstaff High School girls basketball coach Tyrone Johnson. Coach Johnson, thank you very much for coming on the show. I'm sure we'll touch base again mid-season, and best of luck going forward. Happy holidays as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Phil. Appreciate you covering us.
Thank you, sir. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the boys basketball program at Flagstaff with head coach Nick Walton right here on Off the Bench. Stay with us.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verde Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle. Get Gettles.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Gettle's High Desert Mechanical and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I am joined now by Flagstaff High School boys basketball coach Nick Walton. Coach Walton, welcome back onto the show.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the invite. I know we've been trying to get this on the calendar a few times, and I apologize. My schedule hasn't been as open and convenient, but happy to be here, and always a pleasure to talk with you again, Philip. So hope you're doing well and excited to see you again.
Well, thank you very much, Coach. That's very nice of you to say that, and I'm happy to have you as well. I'm doing good. 2021's been kind to me. It has also been very kind to your basketball program this season. The season is kicked off officially for the Eagles, of course. You guys started the season off participating in the Panthers Hoops Classic. Team went 3-1 in that tournament. Coach, just kind of in general, I know it's the tournament to start off the season, but what did this tournament kind of tell you about the team going forward into the season? Who stood out to you during that tournament? And just what are your overall thoughts about the start of the year?
Yeah, I mean, it was a good experience for us. You always like in these tournaments as best you can to, try and see different competition that, maybe you won't see during the regular season. And fortunately, Paradise Honors was willing to let us come down to their tournament, and we got matched up with a lot of good private schools that, smaller schools, but definitely teams we wouldn't, play during the regular season, and great competition for us. It was a really good experience. It was just a really good decision on our part, I think, to have our guys go 4 games that don't count against your PowerPoint conference schedule, to really try and work out some kinks. I was a little concerned about, we have a couple guys coming off of cross country this year. Our cross country team did really well, and they go late into the fall, as well as football was going late into the fall. Right. So that limited time together that we had going into, the start of the basketball season, I wanted to try and get some games where we could work out some kinks and work on some things. So, it was a good experience for us. I'm glad we did it. Was really impressed with our senior class. Max Fritsch was named to the all-tournament team during that tournament. He had a great tournament, played really well. It was nice to see Nick Morrow start to work off a little bit of the football rust.
Big fella.
Yeah. So he had a good tournament, and then Nick Sneezy played really well for us, and then our bench did really well. They got in, and we're able to spread minutes around pretty well while we were down there. So all in all, just a good experience. We got beat early. I think we played that Trivion Prep, an incredible basketball team, 2 guards that are just lights out, in my opinion, played extremely well. I don't know if we were quite ready for the speed yet as we were working off our rust, but ended up getting on the left side of the bracket and then winning out the rest of the tournament. So it was a good tournament for us. Good 3 days of basketball for sure.
Well, Coach, obviously the season's kicked off. You faced a couple region opponents. I believe it was Mojave and Mingus Union that you guys played already this season. I know we're going to get the full kickoff of region play when we return back from New Year's, but I'm just curious, Coach, what are these early 2 games against region opponents sort of told you about the region this season? What are you kind of expecting from the region this year? Before we go into some more tournament talk, I'm just curious, what have those early 2 games shown you about the region? And how excited are you to get started taking on like Bradshaw and Cocoa and a couple of these other teams?
Yeah, just as I anticipated, the region is going to be extremely competitive this year. And those 2 games really showed me that on any given night, anybody's ready to win a basketball game and ready to compete. So, thankfully, I think that initial tournament that we played in down at Paradise Honors helped us in those region games. I don't quite remember what Mingus and Mojave were doing off the top of my head during that time, but I think they had some games in. So, having that tournament helped us to be ready for those games. But I think the region, it's as good as it's ever been. There's some great basketball players in the Grand Canyon region. Some guys are really standing out early, are making noise in non-region games. And, I just think every night's going to be a battle. I almost look at it as, not the same scale, but like an ACC, a Duke, North Carolina, a Duke, Boston College, a Duke, Georgia Tech. any given night, one of the teams going to win, and maybe Duke's the powerhouse team, but all those teams are giving them fits, and I think that's how it's going to be for the Grand Canyon region. I think any team's going to give the other team fits this year, and so we just got to be ready every single game that we play to play hard, because our region is full of talented basketball players. So I'm excited to play in those games as well as watch the other region games and watch these guys do well this year.
It's funny you mentioned the ACC, Coach. We can argue who is the Duke or UNC of the 4A Grand Canyon region all day, but I will say, just in terms of geographically, I guess you guys would be, you and Coconino would probably be the Duke UNC of the region. But there's, like you said, there's a lot of great talent within the region, and we're all excited to get the rest of the season kicked off and get some more region play going. Coach, you guys also participated in your own tournament, the Pepsi Holiday Tournament. I spoke with Coach Johnson previously about the girls' side of their performance in that tournament. Before we get into your opinions about that tournament, Coach, I just want to ask, obviously you guys participated in the Panthers Hoops Classic, which is not a tournament hosted by Flagstaff High School. So I want to ask, when you're deciding who to take on, what tournaments to participate in, what factors are you considering? Is it just kind of obviously you got to factor in your schedule, of course, but when you do have those opportunities to pick a tournament to participate in, are you specifically looking for certain teams that you want your guys to be challenged against? Are you looking for tournaments where region teams are participating, where playoff teams are participating, or are you just kind of going, hey, it's 3A, 2A schools here, we're a 4A school in this tournament, we're going to participate? Or, just in general, Coach, what are you looking for when selecting a tournament to play in?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's so many factors that go into it, and I just could talk about this for hours on whether it's a good decision or a bad decision of who shows up. I think first and foremost, you always want, with the tournaments, I think as best we can, we want to try and play teams that we're not typically going to play. And I would argue that the other coaches feel the same way. Yeah. At the same time, you want to help your friends out, and so we did have 4 region teams in our tournament. We always ask Coconino to come over because it's cost effective. They don't have to travel. We don't have to travel. So it makes a lot of sense, for Coconino to participate. We love having them. They had a great tournament. They did a heck of a job, made it to that championship game. So, so Coconino came, and we also have Lee Williams and Mingus. I think, a lot of it was trying to help them with their schedule, and I'm fine having the region teams comes, and then we just, do the best we can to not see each other in the tournament. Obviously, you can't predict that all the way, but as best we can, space that out. And I think they appreciate that. And, as a host, I think you want to create an environment that, is a fun basketball environment for the teams that are coming up, but you want the games to be competitive. And so, we're going to do our best to reach out to, some of the big players. And, it's tough for a lot of those Phoenix teams to come up during December. And there's so many tournaments that happen in the Valley that's close by for them. And I just assume they're in the same boat we are of, what's the most cost effective way to participate yet still get quality games. And fortunate for us, a lot of the teams in our geographical area are very competitive. And so it was good having some of the 3A teams, 2A teams come up. They were extremely competitive. We had Pima. I think Pima was the one team that traveled the furthest, but man, Pima came up and just was in competitive every game. Snowflake, Arizona Lutheran, and every team that showed up was competitive. So, to, I guess, round up your question, you want to, make it advantageous from, I think, a travel standpoint, but also try and give, every team an opportunity to play some good quality basketball games, because, we're working on things during a non-PowerPoint, non-conference game that, doesn't affect your playoff seeding per se, but, you still want to try and match up against a quality opponent to work on some stuff. So I think we were able to do that. Coach Johnson did a great job recruiting some good quality girls team as well. 24 teams. I mean, it was an awesome 3 days of basketball. And, so it was not having it for a year was tough.
Yeah.
But to have it back, I can't think of a better way to spend those 3 days. It was a blast, and everybody had a great time.
Yeah, those basketball tournaments that last a couple of days are a lot of fun. I remember doing it in high school. We participated in a summer tournament at Palm Springs High School all the time. It was the one thing I look forward to in the summer. Just waiting. When are we going to play basketball? When are we going to get these tournaments going? And it was always in August. It was always like at the end of the summer, and I always felt I had to wait the entire summer just to play basketball. It's a little frustrating, but still a lot of fun. These tournaments are great. Coach Johnson sort of echoed a similar response, which is, when you're putting together a tournament, you don't necessarily want, programs that are struggling or quote unquote easier teams to beat. You want to make sure it's competitive. You want to make sure it's fun and diverse, and there's a good group of teams there. And I feel that you guys definitely accomplished that. But looking at your roster this season, Coach, you carry a nice collection of seniors. Leading off, you've got your leading scorer, Max Fritsch. You've mentioned him early on. 6'8", Nick Morrow. I mean, how can you not miss him? Nick Sneezy, another guy. Pete Stalker. These guys have been big contributors for the past 4 years. So, Coach, I want to ask, how have you seen this group of guys grow these past few seasons? What are your expectations for them in their final year here at Flagstaff? And just what have your early sort of looks at these guys been this year?
Yeah, we got a great senior group right now. They had an incredible freshman year. It was really fun to watch them come together as freshmen. And we are very senior heavy this year, which is, it's good and bad, right? It's great because it brings that senior leadership and, guys that have a lot of experience. But then, on the flip side, it's going to open up a lot of roster spots the next year. And so, it's sad to see him leave. And I think we try our best to, balance that out as best we can. But, they're just great basketball players. You nailed it. Max is one of the guys that has just put in, all of them are putting in effort. I mean, I can go on about all of them, but, Max has really done a great job in the off season. I had to kick him out of the gym oftentimes and then tell him, hey, you might want to back it off a little bit just to make sure you're going to make it. He's really focused in. He's had a fast start. He's playing really well right now. Nick, I'm just happy to have Morrow this year. With his big commitment to Cal Berkeley. We're so proud of him to go play football over there. And we're happy that he decided to play basketball this year, one more year, and finish this thing out with us. So, but he's having, once we worked off some of that football rust, he's really dialed in now and seeing the ball go through the hoop. Sneezy's been, with us since a freshman, and he's been playing well. Pete, the same thing. And I've really been impressed with Morgan Quatsquiva, who's also, that rounds out our starting five right now. He's kind of like our Dennis Rodman guy. I mean, he shoots the ball. he shoots it better than Rodman does, but man, he really gets after the boards, and he's aggressive and just works, hustles every single play.
Is he dyeing his hair and dating Madonna yet, Coach?
No. He has not yet, but he's been working really hard. And so, you got that core, and then everybody else that's been there, coming off the bench for us. Everybody's just dialed in. They got a good camaraderie. They're all good friends. They hang out off the court. It's just a fun group to have this year. And the expectation is, we want to be competitive. I mean, we want to do the best we can to win the region. Those guys are, our returners were pretty hurt of missing that state playoff spot last year by one. Right. And so I think they've really taken that to heart, and, they really have the goal of trying to get back to state this year. And we just want an opportunity to play in that state tournament, and with an opportunity to see what we can do. So that's the goal, try and win the region and be competitive in state and play as long as we can, as long as we're fortunate to. So. Again,
we are speaking with Flagstaff boys basketball coach Nick Walton. Coach, taking a look at some of these guys you're going to get back next season. I know we're still in the middle of this season, but you, along with your seniors, you've obviously got a great group of juniors: Richard Garcia, Ben Janik, Jake Weidinger, name a couple. But you've also got a wonderful group of sophomores as well who have made the varsity roster. So, Coach, I'm curious, how important is it to you to kind of keep these guys together throughout their next 2 to 3 years here at Flagstaff? And when do you kind of make that decision to go, hey, we need some we can pull up a couple of these sophomores here to play at the varsity level. I mean, just in general, even a freshman. I know you don't have any on the roster this season, but I mean, even in years past when you've had a freshman on the varsity roster, I mean, what do you kind of factor in when you go, all right, this kid is ready for varsity play, whereas this kid might be ready for a couple more years down at JV?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if we ever have the right decision, but our mentality is, these guys can be competitive on the varsity roster. This sophomore group that we have, they're working hard, and so it's, you kind of have that unique rule in place where, on any given night you could utilize 6 quarters for somebody, and where you see some of these guys, well, hey, yeah, maybe they're not quite to, the bench or that core group. And so instead of, having them sit on the bench and not getting as many minutes, they can play a full JV game. And honestly, now the JV games and even the freshman games, I don't know what a lot of teams are doing, but it seems like, the trend now is the freshman game. It's not even a freshman team anymore, right? I'd argue we're probably one of the few teams in the state that runs a true freshman basketball team, but they use that 9th, 10th grade, level. And so you're playing, our freshmen are playing JV games in my mind. It's not all freshmen. I don't think, at least that's how it was last year. I anticipate That's how it is this year. And then same thing. Our JV guys, they're playing varsity quality basketball out some nights. And so they're getting great competition during those JV games. And we're using those minutes to where we can keep developing them. They can keep building that team camaraderie. They can start, getting used to playing with each other and picking up on tendencies and stuff. And I think you miss out on those things if they're not getting as many minutes, in a varsity game. And that's just going to carry, for the next 2 years, which would be great. So that's like our main idea. Where are the minutes available? There's only 32 in a game. If you got 15 guys on your bench, not every player can play 32 minutes. It's just, there's not enough.
Right.
But if we can, afford those guys, quality minutes in a JV and they're still available there, to use in a varsity game, we're going to take advantage of that where we can. They stepped up big for us in that, in our Pepsi tournament. Because we had some injuries, guys out of town, some sickness, and they were able to step in, and they got some good quality minutes, I think, in that tournament. And there's going to be other opportunities throughout the year where we're just going to need them to come up and help us out. So, I think that's it. That's typically the mentality that we've used is, hey, let's get you minutes, let's get you game experience, and where are they available? And the game minutes that you're getting, they're not slack off minutes. They've been in some tough games this year and really pushed them and challenged them. And I think it's going to pay dividends for us in the long run.
Yeah. And like you said, they're building up all that experience. They're getting opportunities to play basketball a little bit more than they would if they were sitting on the varsity roster. Like you said, some of these kids will get an opportunity to play at the varsity level if the need is there. You talk about the JV team and the freshman team playing very well. JV team right now is 3-1. Freshman team right now is 4-1. So you're right. Coach, you've really got a nice little pool of guys that you can pull up next season and the season after. And I'm sure there's a lot of programs, not only within the region, but within the state, who would love that kind of problem to go, man, we might have too many good players to bring up this year. But both programs, including the varsity program, are preparing for a game against Deer Valley on January 5th. Coach, this is not the first time you guys have taken on the Skyhawks. You did play them last season. It was a 69-43 loss for Flagstaff against Deer Valley. But this time, new year, new team. What are you expecting from the Skyhawks this time around, and how are you preparing the guys for this one?
Yeah, Deer Valley, they're a fantastic program. Haven't watched them too much this year. We still got some scouting to do on them, but last year they had I can't remember his name, but a guard shot the lights out. Just a phenomenal player. I think he's since graduated and moved on, but I know they're bringing back a good core this year. So in my mind, they're a top 5 team in the state. They're going to be competitive with anybody that they play. And we just have to play our best basketball against them. I think our Achilles heel early on this year has been turnovers. And we've talked a lot in practices and in preparing our games of, if you want to go far in state, and if you want to play towards the end of February, you have to start putting together perfect games, and you have to limit your mistakes. And that's really what we're going to have to do against Deer Valley. Thankfully, they got to come up to Flagstaff and play us in our gym. We're going to use our elevation to our advantage and hope that, our conditioning is going to be one of the biggest strengths going into that game. Our core coming back, we didn't lose a ton. And so I think we'll be competitive. I think it'll be a good game. But we're going to have to play a perfect game against those guys because they're a very respectable opponent. I know, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but a couple of our guys play AAU ball with them. So I know we got some familiarity with them in some of their core pieces, which helps going in because when you watch film and scout, then they know, oh yeah, I saw this over the summer, and oh, he does this all the time, he does that. So I think that helps us out a little bit, having some experience matching up against some of their guys. But they're being a top 5 team, we're just going to have to play perfect basketball to get it done. And looking forward to the challenge. Obviously, it helps us in our scheduling and our PowerPoints. It's a great opponent to have. But we're really looking forward to the challenge to see them on the 5th.
Well, again, the Flagstaff High School boys basketball team will take on Deer Valley January 5th. Coach Walton, thank you very much for coming on the show to talk about the team so far this season. Best of luck going forward. Happy holidays and Happy New Year to you as well. And best of luck. I know we'll touch base soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. Same to you, Philip. Always appreciate what you do. Again, high quality program you guys run down there, and we're just grateful that you guys consider Flagstaff, even though it's a little out of market for you. We appreciate that you're including Flagstaff area, and very appreciative for what you do and for spotlighting these high school kids. A lot of great kids in Arizona, but especially in Northern Arizona, and love seeing them getting recognition and putting the word out about them. So thanks for what you guys do.
Oh, I appreciate that, Coach. Thank you very much. That is going to wrap up today's show. I'd like to thank, of course, Flagstaff boys basketball coach Nick Walton, Coach Tyrone Johnson for Flagstaff girls basketball, and, of course, Coach Robert Mavis for Payson boys basketball. That's the end of the show here for Off the Bench. I'm Philip Kattoff. I wish you a great rest of your week. We'll see you next time.